Hitman 2-3, this is Hitman 2. What's the status? Over. 2-3, stand by. Goliath, this is 2 Bravo. Request permission to engage enemy paratroopers and attempt to snatch a grid Papa uniform 259er, 119er. Break.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. This is Ben Powers coming at you for the Commander's Voice. My guest today is a badass paratrooper first sergeant in honor of D-Day, the irrepressible Maggie Peppers. I'm really excited to have you on here today. So how are you doing, Miss Maggie?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me on today.
We're really excited to have you on today. We were talking a little bit before the recording started, and today we're going to talk about a few different things. I want to talk about Maggie's time in the 82nd Airborne Division, kind of get a perspective of what it was like to be a woman paratrooper. We're seeing more and more female paratroopers. Combat Arms is now wide open to women. There's been female company commanders in division in infantry units. There's been Ranger qualified paratrooper females, and that's all wonderful, but that trail was blazed by people like Maggie, who came into division at a time where there'd been female paratroopers since about the mid 70s, but they were still few and far between. And I really want to hear that perspective today. And I also want to hear some of her experiences as the national secretary for the association. And then we're going to talk a little bit about D-Day and some opportunities she may have had to meet different paratrooper and gliderman veterans from that conflict. So over to you, Maggie. Like I was saying, I'm really interested in hearing about what interested you in becoming a paratrooper, especially early in your career, and what it was like when you first got to division back in the day.
Okay, so I'll tell you first off, when I decided to go to jump school, when I decided to go airborne, I was actually in Panama. Division was not my first place after I graduated jump school. I was actually in the 525 MI brigade. I was actually, here's my funny little story. I was in Panama on orders, PCS orders in hand to Fort Lewis, Washington. And I went to Charleston, called up a friend of mine, asked him what the town was by Fort Bragg, because I didn't know at the time. Came to pick me up. Because what the hell are you doing? I said, I'm signing in. So that's what I did. I signed in, got a hold of my friend's company commander, because he was with 7th Group at the time. He called up Branch for me. Branch says, what are you doing? I said, I want to go airborne. He goes, you can't do that. I said, I've already got my airborne physical. He goes, okay. He goes, if you can find yourself a home, you can go airborne. They have to agree. I said, okay, cool, done. So I went all around the place. I went to go find a home. Obviously then 7th Group didn't have people, or females rather. I checked with the division at the time. There was only one location, Delta Company 313th MI, that actually had females. So I went over to 525, talked to Sergeant Major, and everybody, I'm not going to say they discouraged me, but they asked me time and time again, do you know what you're doing? And I said, yes, I absolutely. Are you sure? Yes, Sergeant Major. So that was at brigade at 525 MI group, went down to 519, Sergeant Major there. Are you sure you know what you're doing? Yes, Sergeant Major. It was okay. And sent me down to Charlie Company 519 Tactical Exploitation Airborne. So for the first part of my airborne career, I was actually attached pending completion of Airborne School. I get to Airborne School, do ground week, tower week. The 254 towers were closed because we were in the middle of, at the tail end of hurricane season. So I went from the 34-foot tower to falling out of a C-130 in the sky.
So I got to ask, so you're coming from Panama, you sign into Fort Bragg. I'm guessing you're what, a specialist right now, PFC specialist?
I was a promotable specialist. So okay, backtrack. I'll give you this a little bit. When I was in Panama, I had this great squad leader, and he supported me, mentored me, and he said, if you want to make this a career, if you want to be successful, you're going to have to get well-rounded, which means you're going to have to step out of your comfort zone, and you're going to have to go experience tactical. I said, done. So my first idea was to request, because there were slots, was to request to go air assault. Well, I had a squad leader that, for lack of a better way of saying that, I wasn't so inclined to hook up with him. So he said, hey, you're not going to get it, so don't even bother asking. I was like, okay, I'll do you one better. So I basically gave him the old, I gave him the bird. And my one better was to outdo myself and to do my airborne physical. And that's how I did that. So I ended up completing my airborne physical. And back in the day, that's snail mail, like one computer in somebody's office somewhere in the company or in the battalion. And they had submitted my 4187, but they forgot to attach my physical. So when it went up to DA, it actually, in transit, it went up, my request went up without the physical. So my orders came down sending me to Fort Lewis, and that wasn't going to happen. So did I answer your question? I think I went round.
No, that was great. And it's like the rest is history here. That's fantastic. It definitely shows like an airborne spirit, a willingness to take initiative, not take no for an answer. So you kind of brought that to the table. That wasn't, it might've been, expanded upon once you became a paratrooper, but it sounds like you brought that with you when you enlisted.
Yeah. So like I said, I was, I'm a promotable specialist. I've never been tactical. I get to the 519th and, let me add, as we were talking, what we talked about previously to us starting. So my first sergeant, when I arrived to Charlie 519th, they sent me to the all-male, all-he-man woman haters club platoon. There was no females. There had never been a female in that platoon. We were, the platoon was the tactical jammers, ANTLQ 17 Alpha Victor 3s. They'd all been to Desert Shield, Desert Storm together. They were all combat experienced. And that was in, I got there in like April of 92. So I didn't go to jump school until October. So I had this experience of these guys that had built this cohort. They'd all been together. And then there's me. And I show up and I'm 5 feet nothing, maybe breaking 110 at that point, and no tactical experience. And I had the most amazing platoon. I keep in contact with my first sergeant, a number of my platoon members, and they welcomed me. Somebody might say it was hazing. I didn't look at it this way. When I arrived, they said, hey, we're gonna, you need to go in process. Here's your sponsor, and we'll let you, blend right in. So apparently it's somewhere in the line, my sponsor called up to the platoon, to the team room and said, hey, we're getting a chick. We're getting a female. And they're like, no way. It's like, yeah, way. So this is in the old World War II barracks, right? Old division area. And so the guys were really kind enough to they got with the supply sergeant. He was awesome. And they welcomed me. They brought out the coffee pot and the typewriter, the mop and the broom, the telephone, and they set it up in a little area for me. And like I said, I was a specialist. My maiden name's Hernandez. So they tagged everything with my name, Specialist Hernandez, everywhere. And I took it in stride. I think at that point, and this is the way I feel, if you want to be a part of an organization, that's the thing, you want to be a part of that organization. You need to assimilate into that organization. You need to learn, understand the customs and norms and values of that organization. I walked in there wanting to be a part of them, and we had absolutely no expectation. And I didn't want anybody to change what they were doing because I was there. So, you know, we had, you know, the one bathroom. So yeah, we put the sign up on the door. It's flip it, no big deal. Somebody's in there, forgets to flip it, everybody just knocked. It was common courtesy. All those guys, my brothers. So we could tease each other to all get out, right? Gave each other a hard time all the time, but it was all good, because if somebody else from the outside, an outsider, wanted to start anything with anybody within our cohort, then everybody got really protective. And it was not just the guys for me, it was me for the guys as well.
No, understand, you know, basic airborne team building. I get exactly where you're coming from. Now, did you find it, you know, we're talking about the culture, the norms of that organization that you wanted to belong to. So as a promotable specialist, you probably made sergeant not too long after that. Did you find that since you were focused on standards, focused on customs and norms, that you could find mentors with all the different senior NCOs, or was a need to maybe have a female mentor of some type to help you navigate things a little bit differently? And I'm not looking for an answer. I'm just thinking, it sounds like you're the lone female and you're trying to learn how to be an airborne NCO. An airborne NCO seems like the right kind of mentor, regardless of gender, but I'm not quite sure if you needed a female mentor or not.
Yeah, I didn't. So there were females in the organization. There were females that had been, you know, in the Army for quite a long time, prior to me arriving. So they've been experienced and everything. But my mentorship, my mentors were my platoon sergeant, my first sergeant. It was these guys that I worked with, and like I said, they brought me into the fold, right? I didn't know anything about being airborne. So again, the trusty supply sergeant, they get a hold of a parachute and a reserve and an M1950 and a dummy rifle. And they're like, are you sure you want to do this? You know what this means? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. And they're like, all right. So here I am again, going back to, hey, being 5'0", they show me what it is. It's step by step, you know. It's like they put everything on me. So, you know, after I'm all done, they weigh me, and I'm well over 200 pounds, my own weight plus all my equipment, because they made sure that I knew what it was like to have a rucksack that was you know, packed to standard. It was one of our team sacks. So it had our equipment in there, our batteries and supplies and everything. So I got that from the get-go. One of the very first things that I did in that unit was they acquired equipment downrange, you know, Desert Shield, Desert Storm. And there were, you're going to know this, OE-254s, right? There were 33 OE-254s, and platoon sergeant says, hey, Specialist Hernandez, this is some of the equipment that we use. I need you to inventory it. It's like, okay. Like, where do they go? Where are they? They're in the cage. So here I am. I don't know this stuff. I was in Field Station Panama. So here I go, and I'm getting out the manual, and I'm figuring out 114s, 115s, 116s, all the elements, you know, what the head and the bulbs and silicon and everything. So, you know, it was very hands-on. I didn't know how to, you know, I didn't drive in Panama. So I get out there, and he's pulling a DZSO duty. And he goes, all right, let's go. I said, oh, okay, where am I going? He goes, you're driving. I was like, but I don't have a license. You're driving. I'm your TC. You're learning how to drive. Oh, okay. So everything was very hands-on. It was OJT. And so that's where I got a lot of the example of my own mentorship. It's like a leader is not going to be afraid to get their hands dirty. Hey, provide guidance, provide motivation and direction. And be willing to answer the questions, but have having the trust. He had trust in me to put me behind a Humvee that I'd never driven before and said, you know how to drive? Yes. Okay, let's go. So I had all that. I ended up with all of that in my kit bag before I went to jump school, which was great because I get to jump school and I'm wearing a maroon beret. And I've got an airborne patch on me on my uniform because that's what I'm assigned to. I'm assigned to an airborne unit. And I was an NCO. I was a November 4-5. And I was one of 5 females that graduated in my class in 1992.
That's awesome. Now, did you find Airborne School because you had that time with the equipment, you had that time to do, PT to an airborne standard and be in a cohesive unit? Was Airborne School not any culture shock because you'd had so much time with your company at that point?
It wasn't. I mean, we focused on the training and our mission accomplishment in the unit. 18th Airborne Corps standard. So at the time it was 12 miles in 3 hours, vice the 20K in 4. So I learned how to, I got very accustomed to that. First time I did it, I killed my pinky toes. It's just like, the trauma to that. I hadn't done that in Panama. I rucked all day in Panama, but just not with that weight. So getting down there, running and doing all that, it was a benefit to me to be in that unit, in the airborne unit, so that I knew what to expect. Obviously though, but once I got there, it was my experience. So I was going to have to do it obviously on my own.
Certainly.
But I had a little bit of, hey, this is, you're going to be running everywhere. It's like, for PT, it's like, go ahead, we're going to do some exercise, have your helmet on because you need to work out those neck exercises because it's going to hurt you. So I was prepared. I had an idea. And I think that benefited me. But here's the one thing more than anything, when I went to jump school, which, again, when I got to Bragg, I was hungry for it. I pursued it. It wasn't, oh, this sounds like a great idea. Oh, this is a cute thing to do. No, that's not it. This is a task. I wanted to be better than I was before. I wanted to be a part of something bigger, a part of a bigger organization. And I was hungry for it. And that's what helped me succeed.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's a great tale for sure. Now, fast forward a good 15 years. So it's 2006 and you are first sergeant of, what was it, Charlie Company 313th MI?
Actually, no. So I did not, in 2006, I was actually a staff sergeant.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And I left division in 2004. So I was in the 313th MI battalion from 1996 to 2004. So 8 straight years. Wow. And in that time I was Alpha Company 313th, direct support to the Devils, 1st Brigade. Then I was it's a cute little story. I was assigned to Charlie Company Bravo Company for all of an hour and a half because funny little story. I go down there and I said, they said, hey, report down there. I said, well, this isn't really going to work. Probably just go to Delta Company or HHC. It's like, what's going on? I said, I'm not going to last here because right now I'm headed to the doctors because I need to check something out, and I figured out that um, I was pregnant. So,
Roger that.
so I had my son in 97. When I was assigned to Alpha Company. So I actually had my son when I was direct support to the Devils, and then I had my daughter in 2000, and then I was assigned to Delta Company 313th, which is general support to the division, and then move over to HHC, and I was the battalion training NCOIC, and went to while I was with the unit. In 98, I deployed in support of Operation Mitch relief operations, the Cat 5 hurricane that hit Central America, deployed in support of that with the 29th Pad. And then I was on the first push in 2003 when we went to Iraq. So we had our main, our actuals in Afghanistan. Then we got the word. At the time, my husband was actually in Afghanistan, and we did a 2-week RIP. He came back, and I went forward to Iraq as the division SSO under General Swanik and Sergeant Major Thorpe.
Holy cow, that's amazing. Now, was your husband also an MI paratrooper, or was he an infantry paratrooper, or?
We actually met in Charlie Company 519th, and he was actually an intel analyst at the time, and then later on he went warrants. So.
Oh, that's awesome. That's fantastic. Now, what was it like? This is kind of cool. I love these interviews because they go in a direction I wasn't anticipating. What was it like having 2 little kids and your husband's a soldier, you're a soldier? I understand about family readiness plans and things like that, but I mean, that was just a really dynamic time when the GWAT was kicking off. Folks are going to Afghanistan, then the push into Iraq, different other contingency operations, like you were saying, fast forward a little bit, people are going down to Haiti in 2010. People going to New Orleans in 2005. You just never know what's going to happen. So how did you guys balance that?
So that's actually a good question. We were actually featured WARAL or something. We were in the Paraglide because of that question, because they figured out the AP actually featured us as well when I came back from Iraq. It wasn't we didn't really think about it. We just did it. That's a lot of people actually have always asked me, I was like, how could you be a full-time mom and a full-time soldier? And it was like, it's not something I really thought about. That's just what I did. It wasn't, you multitask. Okay. There is a challenge, and you just do it. You don't think about it. There's things set in place, to have, the family care plan, short-term, long-term, and all that. So it's all in place. The other thing is I had, the 313th was actually a phenomenal unit as far as that was concerned. Everybody really took care of each other. We were a real tight family in that, and we all helped each other as far as that was concerned. When my son was born, it's always a waiting list, right, to get into daycare, and it doesn't matter if it's on post or off post. It's like there's just a wait. So actually, the wife of one of the staff sergeants that I worked with in the other platoon, his wife actually took care of my infant son for the first 2-3 months until we were able to get into daycare. So it's things like that, and we were prepared. So my S3, when we came back from Iraq, and then 2.5 months later, we're going back, right? He goes, "Hey, Sergeant Peppers, are you okay? Are you guys, because both of you are on the manifest to go?" And I was like, "No, we're fine, sir. We're good." It's like everything's in place. If you know, if we need it, we need it. We're good. And actually we were. And then for whatever reason, I ended up not going on that. So my then husband, he went to that second rotation in 2003 into Iraq, and then he came back 2004, and I was able to apply and was accepted to attend the at the time it was a Joint Military Intelligence College up at DIA, and it's now called the National Intelligence University. But it was a nice time, and I think maybe Big Army decided to give me a break and have pity on me and let me go into the world of academia for a year.
That's awesome. Now, obviously, you feel a connection with division because you, after retirement from the military, you said, I think you said in 2018, you've
Yep.
now become a national level officer with the 82nd Airborne Division Association. I believe you're the national secretary, correct?
Yes.
So what does that role entail, and how what made you decide that was something you wanted to be a part of, and what are you doing in that role to help paratroopers past and present now?
So obviously there's a whole lot of challenges, but you know, as we go into it, but back in the 313th, you know, you want to be a part of an organization. Well, the Army's a professional organization. It really is. You know, any organization, here's my mindset, any organization that views itself as a professional organization has an association, whether you're looking at the you know, the Bar Association for attorneys or the AMA for doctors. Well, you know, the Army has the AUSA, you know, Association of the United States Army, again, lifetime member. And, you know, the division, there's only one division, and there's other divisions, but there's only the division. And I spent 8 years there, and it was never a question whether or not I was going to be a member of the association, because it was just always going to be that link to that. Once we were with the 313th, we had a during All-American Week, you know, we actually welcomed back our veterans. We had our conference room all set up. We had static displays. We had a luncheon. They came to the MI ball. So it was I am a silly history nerd. That's the other thing. I don't know if you picked up on that yet. I am a nut for history. I think, you know, I already told you what I found today. But anyway, so it's that being a part of that. And the other thing is passing on that part of it, being the mentor, passing on, holding on to our history and passing it on to passing on the legacy to future generations, because essentially what we do as a whole, and it doesn't matter what unit, MI is MI, and we're going to do MI stuff. Signal is going to be signal. The equipment might change, right? But our task is still the same. You know, the signal needs to be the commander's voice. MI, we need to be able to be the eyes to provide the kudiu, right? Look through the fog of war and present that picture to the commander. So it doesn't matter. It's like so I know that at my level, the soldiers that did my job 10 years prior, they did the same thing. The soldiers that do that now, 10 years after, or not 10 years after, but you know, the generations they still need to be able to do the same thing. So we're linked in that. So I was always going to be part of that family, and wanting to make sure that is passed on. And I mean, look, now today is the 77th anniversary of DDay, and to to have that link to the division and being able to do what I've done, to be stationed in Louisiana at the birthplace of the 82nd and the 101st, to be at Fort Gordon, to where I can go to Atlanta and be at the birthplace at Camp Gordon, where the 82nd Infantry Division was established in 1917. For me, that's incredible. And that passion for me is really part of why I'm going to be a part of the association. And, you know, it's that whole thing. It's like, you're a paratrooper. Once you've fallen out of the airplane and you've become a part of the family, that's not going to go away. It's always going to be a part of you, whether you like it or not. You know, there's some people that, oh, I'm scared to death, I'm never going to do that again, I don't know why I did it in the first place, but you did it. Roger and that the fact that you did that and you went through that training and you, again, going back to the sense of trust that you have, that is going to carry on. So that's kind of why I do what I do and be a part of the association. And we continue to do that now. COVID, you know, put a hamper in lives in general. But I don't know if it was so hard on military members, or at least in division members, or like SF, because we go on deployment. So what do? We go through ISO, you know, you go through isolation and you know, you go on deployment. You don't have the ability to go out. You don't have the ability to eat whatever you want. You can't go to McDonald's, you eat at the chow hall, or you get the MREs because you can't get any refit, right? So I don't know if it was so hard in dealing with COVID. It was kind of a nice little break. It's like, oh yeah, I know how to do this. Done. I'm not, you know, help me get ready for the zombie apocalypse, but you know, that's a different story. But I do this, but as far as continuing on with the association and just showing, hey, you know what, the division, the Army, it gave me certain experiences and skill sets, and I just want to make sure that especially for the challenges of this generation, just to say, hey, you know what, no, we still got you. You know, our fraternity started back in the 1940s. It's not going away. We have to carry the torch forward, and we're gonna hand off the baton to you guys. So that's what I do.
Oh, that's awesome. And you
and honestly, if the Army hadn't said, hey, you can't play Army anymore, I'd still be wearing a uniform.
Understood. Understood. Now, you did mention the fact that it is the 77th anniversary of D-Day. I got my D-Day t-shirt on, Civi Supply, great company. They don't pay me, but I got to give them a shout out. That fantastic product, great airborne stuff. But it has your time in the association given you some opportunities to meet some of our World War II paratroopers or World War II glidermen? And if so, could you share some of those experiences with us to kind of wrap up the D-Day note of the day?
Sure, absolutely. Listen, one of the most fantastic things about the association, I'll tell you this, is convention. Okay. Why? Because it is a blending of the generations. Because when you sit there and you're sitting next to these old guys, the old guys, right? We're the old guys now, but you have these guys and they're excited. You know, they're asking questions and everything. And it's like, this is fantastic. It's like the experiences, they're the same. It's like, oh, I remember when I was driving that 113 or this, that, and the other thing. There was never a platoon sergeant that looked like me for these guys, I've been told. But you know, it's you get there and you get there and you share these experiences and we're all the same, right? And it's phenomenal. But so my first convention, my first All-American week was back in 1992 when I first went Airborne. And then my first convention was 96, and that was in Fort Mitchell, Kentucky. So I'm sitting there and then, you know, just the fellowship, the brotherhood, whatever you want to call it, the fraternity, getting to see these guys. Fast forward, and you see some of these guys again and again. You know, they come up to All American Week, or, you know, and now with you know, technology and everything, you can see what they're doing. And you sit there and you get to talk to them, and the experiences can't, you know, can't be captured in a book. Is sitting there and talking to somebody who was there, who glided in. God, that's crazy. You know, Ray Wallace is one of the guys. You see him on All American Week, and, you know, back in the day, I've got a picture with him, and he was always wearing his uniform, and his cap is all little cocked, and just talking to him, and they love to talk and to share those experiences. And it's awesome. It's amazing. And you're like, how do you remember so-and-so from that time? And you just do. And you figure, if when we deploy and we come back and we're sitting there talking with our brethren, we're like, oh yeah, remember when so-and-so did this, or this day? And it's like, those significant life experiences stay with you. You know, a couple years back, before COVID, got to sit there and have this little cohort of glidermen that they're just phenomenal, and you just can't lose that. Sitting there talking with, you know, we walk amongst our giants and we don't think about it. You know, the little old guy, Sergeant Major Rock Merritt. Oh my God, legend in, you know, in the division, in the community. Sadly, we lost him this past year, but sitting there, you know, a couple of years ago, and just BSing with the man, having a drink, and having him tell you about the experiences. And it's not just him. I mean, it's all of them. You know, my friend Henry, he's a gliderman, 100 years old. Yes, his 100th birthday was spent up in Connecticut. Yes, I drove from Georgia to Connecticut to spend his 100th birthday, because it's special. And we're losing them at just a crazy rate. So, you know, the fact that I was able to have some of these experiences and see the light shine in their eyes as they talk about their friends, the friends that they lost, the friends that they were able to live for. They'll tell you that, you know, they had the chance to come back and to have families and to give back and have jobs and go on vacations and do this and have children and do this and that. Their friends didn't get that opportunity.
Roger.
So you sit there and you realize how important and what a treasure they are, that they were able to pass on a bit of their experiences for us, so they're not forgotten. Because there's, you know, millions of stories. There's 16 million service members that served in World War II, and we're down to 356,000 nationwide, losing 256 a day. We were losing 1,000 a day at one point. And to be able to have that link with them, you know, sing Blood on the Risers with Vince Esperanza. He just signed up today for convention. So we're going to sit there in August, and we'll be able to drink scotch and sing Blood on the Risers and just have a good time and live. That's what they do. Awesome. They live. So they live for us. It is our responsibility. It's our honor to carry on their legacies. So
that's fantastic, man.
Sorry, I'm getting that kind of bubble. That bubbles me up.
No, it's beautiful. I can't imagine a better advertisement for why you should join the association. Yeah. That was amazing. And you're exactly right. It's an honor to be with gentlemen like that. And we
Yeah,
stand on the shoulders of giants, and it's just amazing. I can't think of a better way to wrap up D-Day than that tribute that you just gave those men.
thanks,
So
thanks.
Maggie, it's been tremendous having you on the show. I really
Sure.
appreciate that we were able to link up. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Ben Powers and the Commander's Voice. My guest today was retired First Sergeant Maggie Peppers, pioneering paratrooper in her own right, and just having an absolutely awesome conversation. Thank you again, Maggie, for being on.
Yeah, I just want to say, you know what? I'll say this: being a female was never a challenge. Never a challenge. The challenge for me, I'm only 5 feet high. So,
I can only imagine trying to get to the anchor line cable. No.
but and I'm sorry, I'm just saying, it's
No
like
worries.
a lot of people like, oh, being a female, you know what? You just, again, going back to, you just do what you're trained to do. And being a female was never my challenge. It was being short.
That's
And
awesome.
so I was able to succeed because of the cohort,
That's
because I had the
fantastic.
support of my brothers and sisters.
That's a great note to go on. Thanks again, Maggie. I appreciate you. You have a great rest of your day.
Hey, thanks. I appreciate it.
All righty. Bye-bye.